Global besties, welcome to 1,000 Miles Pod. You belong here. That feels so good, guys.
Hi, Global besties. Welcome back to 1,000 Miles Podcast with myself, Tyler,
Nikki. And Maddie.
I am in Guernsey today. Nikki, where are you?
I am also in Guernsey. Still here, going strong.
I love it. And I am in Winter Park, Colorado, which means that today we are recording from 5,300 miles apart. My heart.
Which is like 150 miles farther than the last episode.
Yeah.
In this episode, we are going to be discussing all things travel, which is quite an essential part of not only our friendship, but also us as individuals. So, where do we begin?
Oh, where do we begin?
Oh, well, I mean, that is where we left off last episode. If you have not listened to last episode, please go back and listen to it, because at the end we asked quite a large question, and that is, are we all homeless?
And I think kind of more often than not, we might be.
I think we are too.
I personally am not currently.
Yeah.
However, the house is going on the market.
That's what I'm saying.
So maybe soon. Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon, you will be homeless.
That's what we aspire to on this podcast.
Homeless by choice.
Yeah.
I feel that's important to clarify, by choice. I guess there's a community online of people who travel full-time like Nikki does, or people who kind of quit everything, they sell everything they own and they travel, which is so inspiring for me. I love to see it, but also I feel like between the three of us, we kind of cover an array of people. I have a home with Ben. We own our house here in Guernsey, although like I said, we are looking to sell, so we'll come on to that after. Nikki, where do you stand on the whole situation?
I am homeless. I am homeless recently, and by choice. I just was traveling so much. I was like, why am I paying rent? So, yeah, I think that's kind of, it's really interesting to see like how we all have the mix. Like you said, like we're all representing like people in a different category of like, how much do you travel? Do you have a home? Do you like having a home? Do you not want one?
Which leads us on to Maddie, who your situation has changed really recently, hasn't it?
Yeah, so up until last summer, so summer of 2024, we were both in, normal kind of 9-to-5 jobs, and we did have good, I'm so sorry, I see a spider and I think it's gonna kill me. Okay, it's okay. We're gonna get there.
No,
anyway,
get it. No,
you can sort it. It's fine.
Sort it.
I can't. I'll start crying if I have to touch it.
But you would rather
it's
leave
good.
it? Can you throw a shoe at it?
I can throw a pillow at it. Anyway,
You just
so
watch the pillow come
up
flying
until
back over.
the spider throws the pillow back.
I'm an idiot. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
That's that energy. Okay.
Up until the summer of 2024, last summer, we were both working 9-to-5s. We did have good PTO. We each had like 3 to 4 weeks, so we did get to travel quite a bit. But then that all changed. Patrick left his corporate job. He's still working a full-time job, but it's not corporate anymore. He works with families, so he controls, for the most part, his own schedule. And then I went full-time at Travel Mentor, so I have complete flexibility as long as I get my work done. So with those changes, we decided that it was a good time to move out to Hawaii for the year. My parents live out there, and they have a citrus farm that is a lot of work, and they have like some health issues that we just were like, you know what, we are flexible to be able to go support them and help them out this year and live with them. So we're kind of an interesting combo of, we live in a tiny 500 square foot guest house on the farm. So we technically live with my parents. We did sell our house in Arizona, and we've traveled more this year than we ever have. So I would say we're kind of part-time traveling, but we do have a home base, even though it's not our home. So we're kind of a mixture of where you guys are at.
That's so crazy.
I'm not sure if I actually touched on this, but Ben and I own a home, so we have a mortgage here in Guernsey. Like I said, we're looking to put it on the market just because we have an opportunity to inherit a place, so we will buy it. However, we're hoping to kind of downsize so we can travel more and have less sort of outgoings every single month. So that's a really exciting opportunity for us and a privilege that I know that we have. So speaking of privilege, actually, I feel like we should have a little disclaimer at the start of this episode that we are going to be talking about travel a lot. And we are aware that travel is a privilege. Also, everything we talk about is going to come from our own experience. And I think it's important to note that we are all white women and we are all either solo or in straight presenting relationships. So please take everything we say with a pinch of salt because our experience may be different to yours, global bestie. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there before we dive into the travel stories.
Yeah, no, I love that because, you know, for a lot of the world, travel is not accessible, or the quote unquote travel people are doing is fleeing for their lives. You know, like there's an entire spectrum of why people move around the globe or desire to move around the globe or have to move around the globe. You hit the nail on the head, Ty, that it is a privilege, and it is not one that any of us take lightly. I think we're all aware of how precious it is to be able to do this, and so I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, definitely agreed. I think we're all pretty good at recognizing our privilege, but it never hurts to like say out loud that we do see it. So
especially this being like an audio platform as well. If you're listening to the podcast, then you might not necessarily know what we look like, and I felt like that was an important thing to distinguish. So
yeah, 100%. Well, I think we should jump into kind of the origin stories. Oh, it's like the villain origin story or like the hero origin story. Like, what brought you
Who
here?
are
I'm
we?
super curious. Yeah, who are we? I'm super curious. Each of our relationship with travel. In episode 2, our previous episode, we talked about our status of our romantic relationships, and at the end we were like, you know what? The biggest relationship we're all in that we share is travel. So we're super excited to dive into that. Nikki, why don't we start with you? I'm so curious. What was your entrance into travel, whether that was around the US or internationally? Like, what would you say was the first time you quote unquote like traveled?
yeah, I think to give a little bit of background, I grew up in a pretty poor family, paycheck to paycheck. You know, we moved in with my grandma, kind of like my mom struggled to like pay the bills and make everything come together for us, and thankfully we had a little bit of a support system to put all of that into place so that we had somewhere to go. So we didn't travel as a family. I remember one year my mom and my stepdad had like surprised us with a trip to drive from South Dakota to Colorado to go to Denver, and like me and my sister were like, oh my god, we're going to Denver, like the coolest thing ever, we're going to Colorado. I like vividly remember like seeing the mountains for the first time and being like, I want to go there. Like I want to like go see what's in the mountains. What's in a mountain? I don't know. That's so exciting. And my mom and I had watched, I don't even know how many Nat Geo documentaries or like different things just of the world, and I would always just be like, wow, this is so crazy, this is so cool. And she would always say like, oh, I wish I could have gone to do that. And I was like, oh, why didn't you? You know, like my little brain was like, why not? Obviously as an adult, I recognize that like life happens and, you know, unforeseen circumstances, there's so many different things. But it kind of put the fire in me to like, no, but I want to go. I don't want to get to a point where I'm like, hey, yeah, I wish I would have done that. And I didn't. And then the first time I ever got on a plane, there was like a $99 round trip ticket from my hometown to Dallas, which is where one of my aunts lived. And so my grandma had bought my sister and I each a ticket, and my mom walked us to the gate and put us on the plane and said, you're getting off at this gate, look for this exit sign when you land in Dallas. And that's how you're going to find your aunt.
How old were you?
I was 16.
Okay.
And I was like, what do you mean? And I was terrified. I was so scared of flying. I was like, I made my sister sit by the window. I was like, I can't look out. I like cranked my seatbelt on. I was like, we're going to die. Like completely losing my mind. And my sister's like, whatever, we're fine. And then as soon as the plane starts and we're rolling out of the gate, my sister was like, I'm not okay. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like we immediately flopped. And then I remember landing in Dallas and being like, these planes could run over the plane that we're in. Like, the planes are so big, this building is so huge, how am I ever going to find my aunt? And my aunt somehow talked her way through security or paid for a cheap flight and was standing right at our gate when we got out. Thank God, because I don't know how, like, I was like, I don't know how I would have got us out of here. So that was kind of like, that was the first time I ever got on a flight. And then I think the first time that I really traveled, like, that I remember being like, oh, this is something that's going to change my life, was a trip I took in college. I literally had never got on another flight until my school. They did trips, like, not sanctioned by the school. This was like, the teachers put it together, 2 of them, and we all said we're going to be gone for a week. And we went to one of the largest international, like, art auctions or photography auctions in the world that happens in New York, called APAD.
So cool.
Yeah, it was so neat. And our instructors organized things with different alumni or, like, connections they had. So, like, we had alumni that were in charge of, like, the commercial studios for, like, Macy's catalogs. Go into these studios and get to see the behind the scenes. Or, like, like, Sarah Silver is a fashion editorial beauty photographer. We got to go into her studio and, like, get critiqued. And then we got to go into these, like, galleries and, like, see how the back end works on top of the experience of the auction. And then on top of that, we had free time to just see New York for the first time.
Wow.
And the very first night we stayed in a hotel that was, like, within crawling distance of Grand Central Station and, like, 10 blocks from Times Square. And our first night we all walked the 10 blocks to Times Square, and I will never forget walking into Times Square for the first time and, like, all of the lights and seeing, like, Lion King on Broadway and, like, every crazy thing that I've ever seen in a movie or online or whatever for the first time. And then being in complete awe with, like, this group of people that I've been building this bond with for years. We've kind of been collectively going through trauma in art school, like, you know, like, this whole thing and these hopes and dreams, and, like, we're about to see everything that our career could become or the possibilities of the world. And now we're standing in Times Square and we all sat down on the red steps and cried together. And we were like, this is, like, the craziest thing.
That must have been so surreal.
I love that.
Yeah, it was so surreal. So surreal. I still think about it. And, like, one of my best friends in the whole world was on that trip, and we both moved to New York City after graduating at the same time. So, like, it kind of was this whole just where I was like, oh my God, I just flew somewhere and I'm having this experience with people, and I'm seeing how the world is functioning in, like, in my own country, but, like, wildly different than the, like, city that I've been going to school in. And of course I had done other travel here and there, but truly being like, oh, I can, like, get on flights and have these otherworldly experiences that are completely reshaping me as a human. It was like, I was like, I can't not do this. And from there, I obviously, like, I went in a bunch of different directions, but I ended up ultimately leaving New York after I graduated, and I moved to Vienna. And that was the first time I'd ever left the country. I just moved.
Wow.
But I knew I wanted to be somewhere else.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I knew you moved to Vienna. I didn't realize that was the first time you left the country.
Likewise.
That's so baller.
Yeah. I didn't Google anything about Vienna. I just, like, I knew a person there, and the guy I was dating at the time also knew someone there, and we were like, what if we just moved there? And we were like, the only Google we did, I think he just looked up, like, Vienna, Austria, and it said it was, like, the #1 place for people in their 20s to live in the world. Like, it had been voted, like, 10 years in a row for, like, the #1 place for people in their 20s to live. And that was all we knew going in. Like, we didn't have, like, what are the landmarks? What are the things that you can do there? Like, what makes it the best place to live? What's the cost of living? Like, none of it. We just literally packed our bags and moved. And from there, did a little bit of traveling, thought I was going to stay there, and then my visa got denied. There's so many stories to unpack in all of this, you guys. It's crazy. But I did a little bit of traveling from there, and was like, after the initial culture shock, I was like, oh, the world is mine. The world is mine. I can't stay in one place.
I love that. It sounds like the Dallas trip, like first time on your plane, I love that story, and it sounds like the New York trip was just such a fundamental shift in the course of your life.
Yeah, such a formative part of your life, especially being that old as well, like being in university or college and visiting somewhere that is so inspiring to you.
Yeah, I was 22.
Wow.
I was 22. I got on a plane at 16, didn't get on another one until I was 22.
And then your first international trip to be somewhere that their primary language is not English either.
No.
Very brave.
Yeah,
Inspiring.
I was like, I have no idea. Like, thankfully, I was like with people who could speak German, and like most people in Austria will speak English with you, and they know it. But I didn't know that. I was like, what do you do? What do you do if someone doesn't speak English? And like, Google Translate wasn't it didn't exist to the capacity it does now, where it was just like, oh, let me open an app and like translate a menu. It was like, oh, I just kind of have to like maybe learn a word, and if it's like bread and cheese, maybe that's good, and I want that. Like, you know, it was like a totally different experience. But that is probably the only time I've ever really clocked culture shock. And ever since then, it was like that first 24 hours unlocked so many things in my head that I was like, oh, I can go anywhere and figure anything out. Like, there's, even with a language barrier, I'm going to figure it out, and it's going to be fine. And I'm going to learn so much by like just letting those doors open of like, how do I solve this problem? Or like, how do I have the time of my life in this new place? Or like, what culture is there to learn that can change how I live my life for the better, and like who I want to be as a person?
It's like that first trip was just like unlocked a whole potential world that you could see.
Yeah.
Sometimes all it takes is that one trip to really, really encourage you to see more of the world.
Yeah.
I think something we always say is the more of the world you see, the more you want to see.
Yeah. I mean, you can say you have a bucket list, but the second you take a trip, your bucket list is 3 times longer. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I find that even places that I've already been, like my bucket list for that location will grow. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not even like checking off, like we just recently went to the Cook Islands, which is at the very top of our bucket list. And I was like, okay, like I think I'll feel a sense of like, okay, yes, like I checked that off, but I literally came back and was like, okay, I didn't check it off because now I have 20 more things I want to do there.
Yes.
100%. I think everywhere that I have been that has been on my bucket list remains on the bucket list.
Yeah.
Because I want to go back and I want to experience more things. And like I said before, the more you travel, not only do you want to see more, but you meet people who inspire you to go to new places or try new experiences. And like you said, Maddie, being in the Cook Islands, I'm sure you met the locals there and you learned so much. And there's just so much more to see in the Cook Islands.
Yeah, absolutely. Ugh, I love that, Nikki. I love hearing stories of how the world opens up for people, because I think sometimes it's movies and literature and sometimes it's actually getting on a plane, and I just think it's such a undeniably life-changing moment when you have that just world-opening experience, whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's always
hearing how it's so different.
It like always gives me chills because I'm like looking back, I obviously know it's like a defining moment, but like I was 22. I had no idea where defining moments were going to be past me graduating college. Like, the defining moments were things that were predetermined, you know, like graduating high school, that's a defining moment. Like moving into your dorm room, that's a defining moment. Like, I transferred school 3 times, but I knew I was like going to graduate college. That's a defining moment, you know, like, and then past that, I'm like, you know, what is it? And then, but there's so many things that happen in there that shape who a person becomes. And I think a lot of times we as a society, like, kind of push those moments aside for the things like, oh, you graduated college. That's the defining moment. What are you going to do after? What'd you do after? It's like, well, I did a lot after, but what I did during shaped more than me just having a diploma or a degree. Like,
yeah. It almost sounds like a little bit of what you're talking about is the dynamic between like the emphasis in American culture on what you're doing and not who you're becoming.
Yeah.
And I think there's a little bit of a shift there, but travel, I feel like, I think you can approach it in both ways, but I think travel is about who you're becoming. Because every single place you go leaves an imprint on you. Like, you're a different person after every single trip. Whether you love the trip or hate the trip, like, you are a different person. It leaves an imprint on your soul and on your memories and on your brain and the way you just process the world. And travel is so much about who you're becoming.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what's like so enticing for me, especially moving into this, like, I'm a full-time traveler now. Like, if I don't have the next place booked, like, I don't have a home to go back to. Like, I'm not falling back on anything in that way. I mean, like, I have my mom's, but like, I don't have an address that's mine where I'm like, oh, I'm tired, I'm just going to go back. Like, but that's the enticing part of it to me, is like, I felt so pulled to just go out into the world and see who it shapes me into. There's like, I've always felt that pull of like, there's a version of me that I know needs to travel and will come out through, like, and another version of me that will come out through all of that traveling. Like, there's things that are pulling me in that, and I think forcing myself to try and do what society expected of me isn't and never was gonna make me the person that I've felt so pulled to be, you know? And that's what I think is like so powerful about travel, is even if you only feel like you want to be pulled to take a trip a year, there's something in that that's going to shape who you are as a person. Like,
yeah. No, absolutely. I think travel is, again, incredible privilege. It also, both things can be true at the same time. That's an incredible privilege, and also I think it's the most shaping thing that a human can go through.
Absolutely. On that note, Maddie, like, who do you think you were before this big defining moment in your life? And can you kind of explain what your big defining travel moment was for you?
It's really interesting. I call it nature or nurture. I don't know. I've just, since I was a kid, had this like innate just obsession and desire to see the world. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know, again, if it's just like, I don't know, nature or nurture, but I don't know if I saw a lot of movies about travel or something growing up, or if it's just the way that I'm wired. But I was always obsessed with travel. I think most of my travel growing up was around the U.S. for volleyball. We were all over the country for that. So I feel like that was consistently what I was doing. And growing up in Texas, we would go down to Mexico. But like that was, you didn't even need a passport back then. So my first international trip, besides Mexico, not that Mexico's not great, but it was just a different situation. My first international trip was when I was 9. I come from very strong Irish roots on both sides of my family. And
with the red hair,
my yeah, with the red hair, who would have known? Maiden name McGinnis. I joke that I'm from the McGinnis family. We just changed the name when we came to America, but that's not true. It's literally not true. I know who our ancestor was who came over on that side of the family, Thomas McGinnis, and he was absolutely not related to the McGinnis family. But yeah, so my grandparents, my dad's parents, I think it was for their 50th wedding anniversary, they decided they had saved up for years, and they took all 21 family members to Ireland.
Wow.
21?
Yeah, it was nuts. So
oh my God.
I'm the youngest on that side of the family, so I was the youngest at age 9, and then obviously up until my grandparents. So all cousins, everyone. Like, it was like we knew years in advance this was happening. Like, my sister, I think, missed her sophomore homecoming. She was like so ticked about it, but it was a huge deal. And
my immediate thought was amazing, like this huge family trip. My secondary thought was, holy crap, that must have cost a fortune.
Yeah, and coordinating for 21 people.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was really important for my grandparents to go back to Ireland a lot, so that is something that they did a lot. So they had a lot of connections with locals, and they had a tour guide who was with us the whole time. His name was Patty. And he has since passed away, but he was like a family legend. But we were in a coach bus for a week. We drove all around Ireland, and as a 9-year-old, I hated it. I was like, this is my worst nightmare. I get motion sickness. I'm trapped on a bus with my aunt and uncles who are just like sleeping, and my cousins. I was the youngest too, so like it's not like I was like super buddy with anyone. You know, the older cousins were like in their group. I brought like a stuffed animal named Cubby with me that I was like, I guess this is my like friend for the trip. And I was just like a really, I don't know, like a very ADHD kid. So I think people were like, okay, this is like a lot to hang out with her. So I get it. But I felt like alone a lot on that trip. But I think like, I don't know, in that experience, it was so much of me just looking out the window. Like, I can't wait to do this without all these jabronis and without this bus. Which is funny at age 9 to be like, I can't wait to travel without you who took me here.
I'm strong and independent. I can do this on my own.
I was like, I'm 9. Yeah, I was like, I'm 9. This is my homeland. I could make a run for it. But yeah, but I loved it. I mean, that was such a formative trip. I mean, just so special. Those are some of our, you know, most special family memories. We talk about that Ireland trip and the shenanigans that happen all the time. And yeah, so that was my first kind of entrance into international travel. I don't know where this came from or if this was pre-Ireland or post-Ireland, but I had this obsession with going to Australia as a kid. Like, to the point where my parents were like, stop talking about Australia, please.
Same. Was it
and
Steve
I was like,
Irwin?
No, I don't know. I don't know what it was. That's where I'm like, I don't know what media I was taking in.
Okay.
Oh, you know what it was? I absolutely know. It was 100% Our Lips Are Sealed, the Mary-Kate and Ashley movie.
Oh, that was going to be my next thing. I was like,
that was
Mary-Kate
100%.
and Ashley.
I honestly, it's so funny to say that out loud. I will die of joy if some of our global bestie listeners listening to this right now resonate with this. But I actually do think part of my just love and obsession with travel came from Mary-Kate and Ashley movies, because it was Passport to Paris and Winning London, Our Lips Are Sealed. Like, I have those movies memorized to my core, and I watch them still like once a year, and they're so nostalgic, and I am certain that that's where some of this came from.
The Passport to Paris lives in my head rent free, which is fitting because I'm literally obsessed with Paris.
Check this out.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think my, you know, obsession with travel was kind of always there. And I mean, as soon as I could, I was like, let's go, let's travel, let's do stuff. Like, let's figure out a way to do it. And for me, not even just international, it was like, let's go on a road trip. Like, I remember, you know, growing up in North Dallas, we were only about, 50 minutes from the Oklahoma border. Like, I remember being in high school on a Friday night with some of my volleyball teammates, and we were bored, and I was like, let's drive to Oklahoma and back. Like, just because I like had this like innate desire to go be somewhere else, even for like 5 minutes. We literally drove to the border, got ice cream at Brahms, and drove back. And I was like, that was an incredible adventure. My parents were like, where have you guys been for the last 2 hours?
Do you have a memory of like, because you grew up, well, I guess I don't know, were you landlocked?
Yeah.
Do you remember like seeing the ocean for the first time?
What do you mean by landlocked?
I'm just wondering if you've seen the ocean remember seeing the ocean for the first time.
Yeah. So, I mean, Texas isn't technically landlocked because it's on the coast, but Dallas, I mean, we're so far away from the coast because Texas is so big. The first time I went to the ocean, I actually don't remember it. I have photos. We went to like the U.S. Virgin Islands when I was like 3. I have no recollection of that, so I don't even count it. But we started as a family traveling to Hawaii when I was 8. No, when I was 8. And I fell in love with it. I actually was terrified of the ocean. I didn't get in the ocean for 2 years on 2 consecutive family trips. And it was the last day when I was 10. So this would have been almost 3 full trips to Hawaii where I refused to get in the ocean. It was the last day. And I was like, screw it. I got in the ocean in Kauai at a beach called Kailua Beach, which funny enough is where my parents live now. So it's like such a sacred place to me.
That just gives me chills. I'm like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
So I got in the ocean that day, and it was, I mean, my dad, he recounts it all the time. He's like, yeah, that was it. Like, you just were
Never let you
obsessed
back out.
forever and for always. No looking back now. So if you don't know me, which I hope that you guys listening don't know me, because that means we're reaching new people. But I love the ocean with my whole entire heart. It's my favorite place. It's my safe place. It's my happy place. It's where I feel the most me and the most calm and the most centered. So yeah, that was kind of the story of my experience with the ocean.
I love that.
Yeah. I feel like that's such an interesting thing. Like, I ask that because, like, I have a very vivid memory of seeing the ocean for the first time. But I've also met people who were like, wait, you remember seeing the ocean for the first time? Like, what do you mean? That's just like a field for me. Like, we're just driving down the street and it's there. And I'm like, that's crazy.
I mean, I was born on an island and then I moved country and lived by the coast. So for me, like, that's wild to me, because being near the ocean is it's just part of who I am.
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
Why don't we get into that? Because Ty, you have such a different story.
Yeah.
Either of us, like, you moved across the world as a kid. So let's get into that. How did you fall in love with travel? Was it through moving or was it through something else?
Yeah, so I was born in Guernsey, which is a small island in the English Channel, hence being around water my entire life. And when I was 2 years old, my immediate family, so my mum, my dad, and myself and my brother, all moved to Perth in Western Australia.
That's so far.
Yeah.
So far.
So I think my love of travel really came from my parents. I feel like it's in my genes. They went traveling together when they were in their 20s. They went on a year-long backpacking trip. And I grew up looking at all of their photos from this trip and just dreaming of doing it myself. So when they were traveling, they fell in love with Perth. And once they'd come home, they'd sort of had a family. They decided, well, it's kind of now or never. If we want to go, we should do it now. And they decided to go. So I lived in Perth for over 8 years. I got my Australian citizenship, which is very handy now as an adult.
I love that.
And then we moved back to Guernsey. I think back when we did move back, which I'm not going to remember off the top of the head, I think it was like 2006. The world was very different to what it is now. Nowadays we have FaceTime and you can instantly connect to family, whereas back in 2006 you couldn't do that. So we had to send actual videotapes. Global besties, I'm showing my age here. I don't know how old you guys are listening. But my mum would record us, like me and my brother growing up on the beach and everything, on sort of a camcorder, and then send back videotapes for my grandparents to kind of watch us grow up.
I love that.
I literally love that so much, considering I've been carrying a camcorder around filming us. Like,
But yeah, so when they decided to move back, like I said, the world was a different place. It was a lot smaller. So I think the draw of family really kind of called them to come back to the island. And I mean, I'm very grateful we did, because, the butterfly effect, I don't know where I'd be had we not. But yeah, so I think my love for travel has just kind of been with me always.
do you feel like was the move your like, oh, the world is big, cool moment? Or was there like a trip or something that like stands out as like, oh, maybe I want to do this more often?
I think, so when we were in Australia, when we did go on holiday, it would either be in Australia or it would be back home to Guernsey. So we never really saw much else of the world. But I knew that coming back home to Guernsey was, few and far between. It was quite a treat, and I could feel the extent of the flights and whatnot. So I think I realised like how big the world is then, especially as a little sort of like 6 or 7-year-old doing the trip. I don't think there's like a definitive moment or a trip that kind of spurred the wanderlust in me. It was, like I said before, it was looking at the photos of my parents travelling. And since then, Ben and I have been to a lot of places that they did, and we've sort of taken photos.
I was going to ask. Mm-hmm. I love that.
So on our honeymoon, we went to a lot of places that my parents went when they were backpacking. So even in Fiji, we went past a tiny little island that they stayed on, and we took photos like really similar to the ones that I saw growing up. And I feel like I'm kind of living the life I always dreamed of, and I feel forever grateful for that.
I love that. The nostalgia
That's-
of like
yeah.
circling back.
I mean, don't get
That's
me
so
wrong,
incredible.
it's not all rainbows and butterflies. But if I were to romanticize my life, like, yeah, traveling in my parents' footsteps is certainly something that I always dreamed of doing.
That's so precious. So, how old were you when you moved? I'm trying to do the math. How old were you when you moved back to Guernsey?
So I had just turned 11 years old, hence the accent.
What do you remember about coming back? Were you sad to come back, or was it kind of just still in a big adventure in your head? Like, did you even remember Guernsey from before?
I had been back on holiday, so I kind of knew what Guernsey felt like, and I knew all of my family
Yeah.
was still here. It was funny because I remember distinctly we sat down as a family in Australia, and my parents brought up the idea of moving back to Guernsey, and I was like, yeah, this is great. In my head, I was like, this is one big adventure. I was so excited. And as time got closer, you know, like it was like the build up to Christmas. I couldn't wait. And then about 3 months after being here, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go home now. And they were like, this is home now.
Oh,
And yeah, I found it really hard for a good couple of years. I feel like I've always been a sensitive soul, and at the age of 11, I felt like your friends are like your world sort of thing. And I'd started a new school, and I had a different accent, and I didn't know anyone, and it was scary. And honestly, the weather was awful. We moved in December, so like I went from like the heat of summer to straight into winter in the Northern Hemisphere.
oh,
And the adjustment was just, the novelty wore off quite quick. And then I realized the gravity of what we had done, like moving across the world. Like I said earlier, I wouldn't change it. And my parents, I mean, I think my mum would go back to Australia in a heartbeat, but I'm sure we'll come to that at another point. We kind of stuck through it as a family, and yeah, it's shaped who I am today, I guess.
yeah. I mean, it's gotta. That's a huge jump. I mean, I grew up around military families and people moving every year, and like, that's a lot on children. Like, one move is a lot, let alone like halfway around the world. Like, that's huge.
Yeah, I think when we came back, I think they thought, okay, you know, if we're going to move back to Guernsey, we can't leave it too much later because of our education. And also, I think the longer they left it, it would have been harder for us as kids to make that transition. So I definitely think we did it at the right time. And like I said, it took a bit of adjusting, but, you know, we're here now.
Yeah. So, for our listeners, can you give a little bit of a status update on just, you know, where you're at with travel? You know, Nikki's full-time travel. I would say we're pretty much part-time travel at this point. How would you consider you and Ben at this point?
Well, it's funny you say that. Our social handle is the Infrequent Flyers. And that is because until recently, we both worked full-time jobs, location-dependent jobs. So we very much travel within our PTO or our annual leave. And I recognize my privilege because I know in the US, you guys don't get much PTO at all. Here in Guernsey and in the UK, we kind of get like 4 weeks a year, which is great. Not enough, in my opinion. But yeah, we just basically travel around our full-time jobs. And then we have taken sabbaticals and everything in the past. I try my luck as much as I can to get more time off. But for the time being, we are working full-time and traveling as and when we can.
Can you explain, I think for the American audience, the word sabbatical, until I met you guys, I had only heard that in terms of like professors or like people in like priests or pastors who are like on sabbatical for a year to like go study more and like rest a little bit. So I had never heard of the word sabbatical in terms of a workplace. So I don't know if Nikki, if that was new to you also,
Yeah, it was.
but yeah,
Oh.
can you explain a little bit about that for our American audience?
Yeah, of course. I was in a really fortunate position where my work would offer a sabbatical, which is essentially an extended time off work with a guarantee of your job when you get back. So I was able to take 6 months unpaid off work, but I knew that when I got home, my job would be waiting for me, which was amazing when we went backpacking, because I didn't have to stress about how we were going to make money when we got home or anything like that, I knew that as soon as we got back, I had a job to slot straight into. And as a postie, I didn't have an email filled with things to get back to. I kind of just was able to go straight back into the post office and carry on as if I had never left. But yeah, no, I didn't realize that wasn't a global thing.
Yeah, how do you get it though? Like, how does that work? Because in my brain, in the US, they would be like, we're not doing that because then we have to fill the position. All that work's gone. Like, why would we keep that job for you if we could just hire someone who's going to stay and not disappear for 6 months? Like, what is I don't know how.
Is it protected?
Yeah.
Like, is that like a right?
No. So this was I was so lucky that my job offered that. And I think it's because I work in a job where there's like 150 posties and a lot of people know different jobs. So it wasn't like I'm the only person that knows the job that I do. So for me to be off, they just had somebody cover my role. And yeah, it's not offered everywhere. It's just happenstance that my workplace offered it. Other ways to get it though, like in the UK, I know some companies do long service leave. So if you've been there for 10 years, then they'll say, well, to thank you essentially for being so loyal to the company, then you can have a 3-month sabbatical or something along those lines. But every company is different. It's not a given. It's just something to look out for in a contract if you're looking for a new job.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great.
Yeah. It's incredible. The US could never, unfortunately, but maybe.
Never.
I don't want to have a totally cynical outlook on it. Maybe some companies will do that, but that's so incredible. And I feel like you and Ben have been so intentional with the way that you've used your sabbaticals, which is really cool.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we actually have another one planned for next October, so October 2026. So yeah, for the time being, we are in frequent flyers and we'll see what happens when we get to that point.
Yeah. Well, I know that we'll keep obviously talking about travel throughout the whole podcast, but there's a bug. I know we'll keep talking about travel throughout the whole podcast, but I think to wrap today, I'm super curious. I'm a big believer in like these like soul ties to places. And I'm not saying that's like necessarily true, but maybe just the romantic in me is like, I feel like as people, we have these like soul ties to places that are sometimes inexplicable. It's like you just feel this incredible draw to go to a certain place for some reason, even if it doesn't make sense to other people, or even if it's, not where somebody else that you love would want to go. So I'm curious, Nikki, I have a little bit of an inkling where yours would be, but Ty, is there a place for you that you kind of feel like, I just feel this inexplicable connection to this place?
No, I think mine is quite obvious, and that's Western Australia, just because that was my home for so long. And I spent so many formative years there. When we came back to the island, we didn't return to Western Australia for years.
Wow.
I think it may have been like 15 years.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What? That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And when we did, purely because now we were on this side of the world, we were like, well, if we've got annual leave or school holidays or whatnot, like, let's go somewhere new and let's see somewhere new rather than going back to somewhere we've been.
Isn't Perth the most isolated city in the world?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So that's far. And then you get there and it's like, where do you go?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we went back in 2020, and as soon as I stepped foot off the plane, I just bawled my eyes out.
Oh.
It was such a surreal experience, and I had never felt more at home again, and it was wild. So I feel like Perth, or like Western Australia as a whole, I know it's a massive state, but just it has part of my heart, and I think it always will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Nikki? I feel like it's time
Take
to get
a wild guess, guys. I mentioned it earlier.
Paris.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a chapter of my life. It doesn't feel that way. I just have always, I don't know. I can't say I've always felt a pull to Paris, but the first time that I went to Paris, I was visiting one of my best friends. She lives in London, and we couldn't afford to like stay a night in Paris. So we took the earliest train one day from London and the latest one back from Paris, and that day plays like a movie in my head. The first time I saw the Eiffel Tower and the Arc de Triomphe was like, we're on these like Lime bikes, and she was like, we're not going to try and navigate the metro. Like, it's too crazy. She had been before. So she was like, we're just going to take these Lime bikes. And I was like, okay. And we're taking him through the giant roundabouts where like cars are like stacked and there's no lanes.
Like
and,
the 12-lane roundabouts.
Yeah. Like very Mary-Kate and Ashley, like highlight reel kind of like, this is a quintessential Paris thing. And I just like came around one of the corners and it was like the Arc de Triomphe, and then like I turned and it was like I saw the top of the Eiffel Tower, and I was like screaming. I was like, the Eiffel Tower, like absolutely losing my mind, and I'm surrounded by cars, and like my friend Gabby is like laughing her head off, and like the entire day we were like, it would pour rain. We would just get like absolutely drenched, but we're just like riding around Paris, like having the time of our fucking lives, like literally the best. And I just was like, oh my God, I love Paris. I love Paris. And then I was so scared to go back because I was like, what if I just loved it? Because I was here for 12 hours and it was like this adrenaline thing with my best friend. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I didn't go back until May of last year. So, and I had gone with my friend in like 2019. So I didn't go back until last year, and I had a week there. I went to some Taylor Swift concerts, like this whole thing. And after the first 24 hours, I was like, yep, this place feels like I'm a whole person when I'm here. Like every part of it, like I can't explain it. I love it so much there. I can walk the streets aimlessly for hours and just feel like if that's all I'm meant to be as a person, then that's who it is. But if I wanted to be literally anything else, this city was going to be there for me. Like,
yeah.
You also had some weird signs pointing back to Paris earlier this year, didn't you?
That was crazy. Yeah. Fill in the global besties on all of the crazy coincidences, signs, whatever. Every time you sent me one, I was like, Nikki, the universe is telling you to go.
Yeah, and I was going to Paris. Like literally, I was going to Paris after Italy to run a half marathon. What is happening?
I'm so sorry. Why is that happening?
No, but I don't even. Was it before or after? There were so many things. It was like Maddie and Patrick and I checked into an Airbnb in Rapallo, Italy. And just randomly picked rooms, didn't really like look or anything. And when I went to like really go look around after we got settled, I look up and like all of the decor is Paris decor. Like all of it.
And our bedroom was not.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I can't even remember all of the things, but I know there was like a string. Like
you went on the cruise?
I got on a cruise like not even 2 weeks later. And I walk into my room and getting ready, and I like look at the artwork behind me, and it's Paris. And I'm like, what in the world? Like the whole, like everywhere I went, it was like Paris, Paris, Paris. Like I'd turn a corner, French restaurant. I'm like, I'm in Italy. Like just crazy. Like any little thing that could have been Paris was like Paris.
Signs from the universe.
Signs from the universe.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how your relationship with Paris continues to evolve. I know you have big dreams for it.
I do.
We're stoked for you.
What about you, Maddie? Have you got somewhere in the world that just completely pulls your heart?
I have two. Yeah, it is. I know. Anyone who knows me knows, it's Rome. But I really have two for two different reasons. The first is Kauai, and I would say Kauai, where we live now, is the closest thing I have to like what I would consider a hometown. I grew up in Dallas, but we had an interesting family dynamic. My oldest sister is 7 years older than me, and so she left for college when I was 10, and she lives in Africa now. She's like Miss Independent. I only saw her pretty much from the time I was 10, really until now. The only time I saw her was at Christmas at our home in Texas, or the week that our family went to Hawaii. So it's really interesting because the only like family memories I have of all 5 of us, pretty much from age 10 on, were in Hawaii or Christmas morning. Because otherwise, like, she wasn't home, and then my, middle sister was gone. So I think even living in Texas, there was always this like draw and pull and like tie to Kauai, especially as a family, because we had more family memories in Kauai from age 10 on for me than I did anywhere else. So definitely Kauai, but globally it's Rome. I don't know. I think I blame the Lizzie McGuire movie. I'm not entirely, I'm like not actually joking, but I don't know what it is. Oh, I know what it is about Rome. I could talk about it forever, but Rome to me is it. It's the most incredible city in the world. It's just the most spectacular place to walk down the street and be like, this is thousands of years old and influenced the rest of the world. And I felt that way a little bit about Athens too, from a history standpoint. But for me, the history of Rome is a little bit more layered and complex and gritty, and it's all of civilization, So, and we have this joke that the coolest parts of every other city in the world are Roman. Like when you go to Paris or you go to like Milan, they're like, look, we have this ruin of a Roman wall, and you're like, see, this is exactly why Rome, like it all comes back to Rome.
Yeah, I literally was just in a tiny town in Greece, and it was like, look at these Roman ruins, and I'm like, what?
Yeah. So yeah, we were in Croatia in Stari Grad, and they were like, come see this Roman, tile that we found under this building, and I was like, see? So I don't know, for me it's Rome. We love it. We're hoping to maybe spend some extended time next year in Rome, which is our dream. We've invested the last 3 years of our life in learning the Italian language. We're like pretty deep into that. Although I've taken the last month off, so I feel a little disconnected.
No, there's no way. The way you guys were speaking Italian in Italy was truly phenomenal. Like, take a month off. You guys are going to dive back into that so fast.
Also being
I hope so.
Immersed in the language, like being over there, you will pick it up so quick. But no, seriously, Maddie and Patrick were like our translators when we were in Italy.
I was jaw on the floor every time.
So impressed.
Every time. I was like, how do you know what they're saying?
So impressed.
It was a rodeo. To set the scene for you guys, I think we talked about this a little bit in our first episode when we talked about how we met, but Patrick and I did this like wild 10-year wedding anniversary vow renewal in this castle in Italy, in this tiny town where there was like 400 people. There's one restaurant, like 2 stores that were right next to each other that sold the exact same things, like just so funny. And nobody spoke English, and Patrick and I were like, it was so funny. It was like a movie where we look out at like the 8 other people at the castle with us, and everyone's little beady little eyes are just staring at us like, help, translate. And Patrick and I were like, okay, guess it's now or never. And I swear we would speak Italian, and afterwards I'd be like, I don't even know how that happened or what I just said, but that is like all props to my Italian teacher Davide. He's awesome. So.
No, but you guys seriously handled that so well. It was crazy because I obviously traveled with you guys the entire 3 weeks, and we went from like Milan to the coast. And so we were hitting a lot of places. I could hear the accents, like I could hear where people were like speaking a little differently or quickly or whatever. And you guys were just like unfazed. And I was like,
cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, I was like, okay, they've got it. Human translators, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll get you in French one day.
Yes,
Also,
please, because I cannot with French.
Global Besties, if you are interested in Rome, Maddie, you have some digital products, don't you?
Yeah, I do not know what possessed me other than pure passion for the city of Rome. I do not know what possessed me to do this, but starting last fall, I was like, I'm going to write the definitive guide on Rome from an American perspective, and like really taking into consideration like what people want to see, like hitting the touristy things, but also all the things, off the beaten path. And I sat down over the course of a few months and wrote a 113-page book basically on Rome. It's a guidebook on Rome. It's a digital book, and it has literally everything you could ever want. Like, I go back to it to answer my own questions about Rome because we have not been to Rome this year, which is crazy. So yeah, I don't know what possessed me to do that, but it's there. It's on our website, thetravelmentors.com. It is a phenomenal resource. I reference it a lot. I point people to it. It has everything you'd ever want to know about visiting Rome in it. So we wrote 11 itineraries. I don't know. We went crazy. I literally got done with it and I was like, why? Why did I do that? Like, I'm obsessed with it. I think it's amazing. I feel really proud of it, but I'm also like, I think I was in some sort of like trance or something because
No, but when you love things,
a little unhinged.
the products of passion are never bad.
Absolutely. And I feel like we could talk about travel forever, but I feel like this is a great segue into next episode, which is going to be all about content creation and our individual journeys with that.
And kind of how that makes the world go round in our travel spheres.
Yeah. So if you're hearing this and you're like, content creation, I'm not a content creator, I'm not an influencer. Oh, I promise there will be something for you because we will be talking about our job journeys, which is always going to be hilarious. We will be talking about taking big risks and what that feels like to just be courageous and make decisions that maybe people in our lives don't necessarily understand. And honestly, if you're just like, I don't understand influencers, I just want to learn about what that even means, this is definitely the episode for you because I guarantee you we're going to talk about things that maybe you didn't realize with content creation. So the next episode is for everybody listening. We guarantee you that.
Yeah, so we don't want you guys to miss out on that, but make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe. Send this to somebody who, you know, maybe needs a little bit of inspiration for the next travel journey. And yeah.
Be sure to get in touch with us as well. We want to hear what your formative travel moment was. So you can send us a DM at 1000 Miles Pod on Instagram and we will be reading them all. But with that being said, thank you so much for being here. We will see you next time. And remember, you belong here.
Crushed it! We're getting so good at this.